Ever find yourself, like at the zoo, right? And you're just blown away by, you know, a lion just chilling there or those penguins going nuts, and you just stop and think, hold on, how'd they even get here? Like, what's the story?
Oh, it's a whole thing. Trust me, it's not as simple as just poof, there's a giraffe. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to bring those incredible animals to you, and even more to make sure they're thriving, for generations to come.
And someone's got to be in charge of all that, right? Someone's keeping track of all those moving parts. And that's where our deep dive today comes in. The mysterious and often overlooked Zoo Registrar. Actually, this one was a listener request, so shout out for the great topic idea. But honestly, I didn't even realize how much went into this job until I started digging in.
It's wild, right? Like, did you know there's actually someone who tracks every single animal, where they came from, their whole family tree, even just like where they are in the zoo on any given day, every detail.
Wait, seriously, I always just assumed that was the zookeeper's gig. So what does a zoo registrar actually do? Give me the rundown.
Okay, picture this. You're in charge of moving, let's say, an Amur leopard. Super rare, right? And it's got to get to a new zoo. Got to make sure this leopard can have babies and keep the species going. You've got to figure out everything. The size of the crate, keeping the temperature just right while it travels, and then all the paperwork, the permits. It's international, so even more rules. That, my friend, is just another day at the office for a zoo registrar.
Whoa, that sounds intense. It's like a whole logistical masterpiece,
Hmm.
but with, lions and tigers and bears.
Exactly. High stakes, for sure. You got to be on top of your game, know your stuff when it comes to animals,
Yeah.
but also be organized, a clear communicator. It's more than just loving animals, I'll tell you that.
No kidding. That's a lot to juggle. And speaking of juggling, this RoleCatcher guide you sent over is fascinating. It breaks down the skills you need to be a zoo registrar, and let me tell you, it's not just about being an animal lover.
Yeah, you gotta love them, that's a given.
Yeah.
But it goes way beyond that. Like, you need a solid background in biology. I mean, the guide actually says 84% of the job is straight up applying biology knowledge.
84%. Wow. So I guess that whole science isn't for me thing just won't fly here.
Not a chance. You gotta know your stuff. But it's not all about Latin names and whatnot. Think about it, you're managing populations, so math skills are key. Then there's the whole communication aspect, working with researchers, talking to the public sometimes, and even a bit of legal stuff because of those international regulations we mentioned earlier.
It's like they're the puppet master, but for like the coolest show on earth, making sure everything runs without a hitch behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And speaking of running things, the guide also mentioned there's actually a whole career ladder you can climb in this field.
Oh, for sure. You don't just walk in as head honcho. You might
Mhm.
start as an assistant, learning the ropes, helping out the more experienced folks. But over time, with dedication, you can move up, maybe even manage the records for a whole bunch of zoos. Some folks even end up specializing, like focusing on breeding programs for super endangered species. That's always in high demand.
Now, that's what I call career progression. So say someone's listening and they're thinking, okay, this is cool and all, but how do you even get started? What's the path from like animal enthusiast to actual zoo registrar? Did the guide say anything about that? Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, the ins and outs of being a zoo registrar, the skills, the whole shebang. But let's take a step back for a sec. Why does any of this even matter?
That's the big question, right? And it's actually way bigger than just, oh, someone's got to keep track of the animals at the zoo.
Mhm.
It goes way beyond that.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I've never really connected the dots between my local zoo and, I don't know, like saving tigers in the wild or something.
See, but that's the thing. It's all connected. Remember all that detailed record keeping we talked about? That's not just for show. That data is pure gold. Scientists use it to study animal populations, figure out genetic diversity, all that good stuff that helps protect species that are in trouble.
So, like, a zoo registrar here could be helping to save elephants in Africa.
Bingo! It happens all the time. They work with those big international organizations, share info, make sure everyone's on the same page when it comes to keeping these animals from disappearing. The guide even mentions some certifications for that, like the CIRRMEM, that's Certified Information Resources Manager. I think basically it's proof that you know how to handle those animal records like a pro, no messing around. Super important stuff.
Wow, okay, that puts things in a whole new perspective. Next time I'm at the zoo, I'll be looking at those gorillas a little differently, knowing there's a whole team behind them fighting
Yeah.
the good fight.
Exactly. And hey, maybe this little deep dive got you thinking. Maybe you could be part of that team one day. Even if it's just, supporting your local zoo, learning more about conservation, every little bit counts.
Preach. Big thanks to you for joining us today. This was truly eye-opening. And to everyone listening, keep those brains buzzing, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.